Morning, afternoon, guys. It's actually about 7 o'clock in the evening here. This will be the first video in a series of putting the Tsunami 2 sound in this Athearn Genesis SD70MAC. The first thing that I've decided to do before I install the sound, though, is I'm going to go ahead and run this engine on DC power. I have a couple lengths of Bachmann Easy Track set up here and a Bachmann Power Pack. So let's go ahead and run this engine and see how it performs on just DC power. This is a very important thing, not speaking as like a professional DCC installer at all, but just as a point of troubleshooting. If you should buy a locomotive DCC ready and just rush and put the decoder in it, and there was some kind of a problem, it would be easier to prove that the problem was not your fault if you had tested the locomotive on DC power before even opening it up. So let's go ahead and run the locomotive. Oh, looks like it wasn't even on the track, right? I guess you got to put the locomotive on the track if you want it to actually run. All right. So in DC power, we don't really have speed steps. It's just kind of using the analog power pack to try to control the speed and see if the locomotive moves. One thing that you are looking for is, although obviously the locomotive's not going to have good slow speed in DC power, just how slow it actually is before it, or how much you have to move the controller before the engine actually moves. But the one thing that you are going to be looking for is to see if there's any lurching. So if the locomotive, before even being opened up, has any connection issues as far as the pickups, no such things, then that's going to be revealed in this test. And the one thing is, you'll notice as I'm running at a slow speed, because it's DC, you're not going to see the headlights or the ditch lights. So in order to be able to actually see that, we're going to back it up here, and we're going to run the locomotive at full speed for a very short distance, just to verify. And you can see right there that the headlights worked pretty good. Trying to use a little bit better camera, went back to filming this on the Lumina so you can see some of these details a little bit better. Let's see here. Alright guys, so I started out taking the coupler pockets off, and I'm using this little nippers. I'm not actually cutting anything, it just happened to be the right shape to pull the screws up out of there. The Athearn actually is pretty easy to take apart. You literally just take the coupler pockets out and then it comes right apart, as you see. I kind of tried to fast forward through this area because it's kind of boring. You can see I'm grabbing some tape. That's just because originally my plan was to throw the decoder and speaker in there and keep the bulbs temporarily and then add the LEDs later. And I wanted to try to remember which was the positive and negative on the LED. So I'm pulling these off here and taping them inside the hood of the locomotive. And also, I'd like to note that this board is fairly easy to take out. There's little plastic clips that you could save and actually use to reinstall onto the new board temporarily until you solder it. That way you can make sure that everything's wired in correctly. So I saved most of the little plastic clips. And the plastic clips come off really easily. You just literally pry them with a screwdriver and they pop off, and then the wires come out. I tried to cut out a lot of the time that I spent just like sitting there looking at the board trying to figure out what to do next. Alright guys, so I got the um, board out. The right side is attached to the right side, left side to the left side, and you can see it's pretty self-explanatory which one goes where. And then you have the red and the black. Alright, so now we're going to focus on, now that I got the decoder out, or not the decoder, but the light board out. Got a little bit different camera angle here so you can see these things a little bit better. I'm going to try to explain what I was talking about before when I taped the wires up inside the body. So basically on this little light board there's different color wires, and you can see how it's like, if you lift this up you can see how it's like printed. Well, some of the ones run on top of the board, other ones run on the bottom of the light board. So the one that goes from the white right here, you can see it goes to this forward light, and on this one, and then if you follow behind here where the white is, you can see that same contact printed goes back to right here on the reverse of the light. So that's why I wanted to, because although with the bulbs it doesn't really matter if it's positive or negative, as you can't have the positive and the negative the wrong way between the light and the back, front and the back, or so I'm assuming. So basically I just tied the same one on the front light that was attached to here, I tied it together to the one that was attached to here with a piece of tape, and vice versa. So I did actually order this morning, and I will say this morning because I'm actually filming this in short segments over a couple days because of time constraints and battery constraints on my camera. But I did order some monster LEDs from Big Al Mayo. So we'll get to look at those when those come in. So right now I'm just working on figuring out how everything is going to fit in here. So as you can see, I taped the speaker into the shell to kind of simulate where it might sit, and then I put the shell on the body to make sure that the speaker back here doesn't interfere with this drive line back here. Let me flip this around. So I did that, and now I'm going to compare the decoders. I have the Tsunami 2 decoder here. It comes in the package with a very nice wiring diagram to show how to wire it into the locomotive. If wiring a decoder into the locomotive seems pretty scary to you, then don't worry, because these decoders come with really good instructions, and then it also comes with instructions once you do have it wired in, how to program the CVs and set it up. It's very similar to the TCS WOW one that I did that came with a really good book as well. So, and it just tells you how to program the different things. And then there's also I believe there's manuals on Soundtrack's website, and there's also numerous videos out there that Soundtrack has actually put out to explain how to use these decoders. Alright, so I'm just going to compare the size. I'm going to lay one next to the other. It looks like lengthwise Tsunami might be maybe a millimeter or so longer, but that would be it. It's not really a huge difference in length. Width-wise, though, if you're comparing the light board with the Tsunami, this is the whole entire decoder, and this is just the light board. So if you were attaching a decoder on top of here, this would, all this space under the hood of the locomotive would be taken up by your decoder. Whereas with this, you have the entire decoder. So you have some more space up here for maybe your keep alive or something like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and see here. We had, it looks like the motor leads went to this. See here. Yeah, motor leads, this was on here like this. So the motor leads went to this side. Because the ditch lights were over here where there was the 4 pins for F1 and F2. So you see over here on the Tsunami, see if I can get it to focus. Maybe he'll focus a little better if I actually just zoom in. Or you can see there where it says motor M1 or M plus and M minus. That's where you would attach your motor leads to the decoder. And so basically you just want to orient the decoder based on not only that, but also based on which end is the forward and which end is the reverse for this. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the instructions before doing that. Alright, so I've read the instructions, and as you can see here, the instructions clearly illustrates that the headlight is going to be on the end of the decoder with this little square box that's kind of put in a diamond position. And it's also oriented where you can see this little hole in the decoder that's for the little clip that's shaped like that. So how you're going to orient the decoder in the locomotive is going to be based on which end of the decoder the headlight is on, which end the backup light is on. You can see the backup light is shown over here. And the reason is because if you oriented it the other way, then you would have to run the lights, the wires for the headlight across the top of the decoder and the wires from the backup light across the top of the decoder. That would kind of make things a little bit complicated. And although if you had to do it in there that way for space, it wouldn't be entirely completely horrible. It just would be better if you could orient it the right way. So here I have my decoder, and you can see the little square box. So we know that that's the front of the decoder, or towards the front of the locomotive. So it's going to sit in there like this, and then these little clips are going to clip in. And it really doesn't matter which side your motor leads are on, because as long as you have enough wire to go across to the other side, then you're fine. So I'm going to try to put this in here just to see how well it is fitting. Looks like these little wires that I stowed are kind of being in the way, so I'm going to move those. All right. Not too bad, actually. It's kind of loose. I'm thinking maybe some tacky glue on there, because tacky glue won't hurt anything. Maybe some tacky glue, just a dab of it to hold that in place, maybe. But you can see, so I already know that my speaker fits right there, but I'm going to have to build an enclosure for the speaker. And everything fits in there like that. There we go. So it's a good idea to make sure that everything fits before you actually go and start soldering stuff in. Go in steps, not, hurried leaps and bounds. So we have the current keeper here. I'm going to check and see if this is going to fit also. Current keeper. And as you can see, it comes with 2 little pieces of shrink tube. So I know Sparky, you said something about, can you add current keeper to factory equipped sound locomotives? Yes. If it is one of the newer ones that already comes with Tsunami 2, like the new Athearn Genesis SD70MAC that just came out, you can use this plug to attach it to right there, which is what I'm going to do. if it's one of the older ones, or you want to put this current keeper onto a lock sound or some other type of decoder, Digitrax, whatever. All those different manufacturers have their own current keepers. They're all basically the same thing. It's little capacitors in here. So basically, this is like a quick, a load and release storage battery that when you apply track power, there's power that gets loaded into here so that when you run across the dirty track, then the power will flow back out into the decoder until you come to good track again, or until the power is exhausted. So sorry folks, my camera battery keeps dying. So by testing this fitting and everything, I come to the conclusion that the end of the hood up in here underneath the fans is the only place for Keep Alive to sit. That causes a little bit of problems with the speaker that I want to use, which is this one, because the only way for the speaker to sit is sideways, and I don't want the speaker to interfere with this drive line. So in order to test this out, I'm going to try to make an enclosure for the speaker out of this little bottle that I got, and it's going to be a kind of an experiment. So a little contacts for the speaker aren't fitting inside, so what I'm going to do is cut that area out.